You are my fire.
I just got done talking about how Avatar doesn't deserve being a financially successful film for an hour and a half. Yeah, let's just spend another hour and a half, approximately, talking about the opposite. Movies are expensive. If you're not careful, you can go over budget. You can think you have Leonardo DiCaprio, when in reality you have Robert Downey Jr. Doolittle Robert Downey Jr. You don't get the privilege of having him an Iron Man. And on a whole, you have to remember, if a movie takes a lot of money to make and doesn't make its budget back or severely underperforms at the box office, that just doesn't look good for anybody. The director, the crew behind the movie, the studio that funded the film, Margaret Cho. Box office bombs, a term describing a film that either severely underperforms at the box office compared to its budget, or worse, doesn't even make its budget back. Now, while there are films people just don't see, it's hard to really say that box office bombs are a common thing. They were for a while, but nowadays it's really hard to tell. Movies can just go to streaming and get viewership there. That's not to discount how Bloodshot, okay, that movie came out in March 2020. What the hell did you think was going to happen? This isn't to say that box office bombs don't happen nowadays. On the contrary, 2022 has quite a few of them. But the standard for what makes a box office bomb is just so much more common nowadays, and the line is rather blurred.
You wanna hug me? What rhymes with hug me?
But my same theory I had with my $1 Billion Club video applies to this one. Money doesn't equal quality. Money doesn't mean a movie is good. As I showed with half of the movies in the $1 Billion Club video, money is not a factor in a movie's quality. What ultimately determines if a film is actually good is up to the opinion. But for the most part, a movie that makes a ton of money and makes James Cameron rich doesn't always equal a quality product. For some reason, it seems that if a movie is a box office bomb, it's supposedly bad, and that's just not true. Hell, some of my favorite all-time movies are box office bombs. And then there's also, Amsterdam. So I've made it my solemn duty to bring light to these movies that didn't make the money, but deserve the attention. Whether that be a good or a bad thing, we'll find out. Also note, these are sorted by year. The first movie I'll be discussing goes back to 1967, and the latest movie going to 2022. We've got a lot of films to cover, so let's not waste any time. Keep in mind, these aren't all box office bombs. These are just, they're just the notable ones. The people would know. Opinions abound. Business.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm lonely, I stick my dick in baloney.
Oh, these aren't homemade. They were made in a factory. A bomb factory. They're bombs.
While this wasn't the first ever box office bomb, it was one of the first notable box office bombs. And if you can believe me, this isn't the last we'll hear of Dr. Dolittle. Got him! In short, I never understood why this was such a bomb. On the contrary, I think this is a single best Dolittle adaptation. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is certainly a low bar, but it feels ridiculous to really call this movie bad. I enjoy it fine, and Rex Harrison is fine as Dolittle. So, it's a decent flick, has a good actor for Dolittle, it pretty much follows a Dolittle story. Why was it a bomb then? Not only that, why was it considered one of the first financial bombs? So I'll tell you everything. Holy shit, what went wrong is a stupid question. What went right is the better question. Script delays, production delays, tension between Rex Harrison and co-star Anthony Newley, which led to Newley calling Harrison an American Nazi. And don't get me started on the budget. The budget! The fucking money the studio gave you to make a fucking movie! I'm sorry guys, just... production hell pisses me off. Anyway, yeah, a lot went wrong with this production, and mostly the budget going 3 times over its initial $6 million amount is a good start as to why this film bombed. The other thing I can say is that it definitely isn't a bad movie, it's just kind of a messy film, and considering the countless production issues, that's to be expected.
They're bombs.
Hudson Hawk is a film about a man named Hudson. He's a hawk. Congratulations. Shit! Hudson Hawk is an action film released in 1991 with Heather's director Michael Lemmon. Definitely screwed that up. And with star Bruce Willis on the writing team. I can see why he never wrote again after this. On one hand, you would think that having the action star write the action movie is a match made in heaven. But a lot of people forget not all actors are fucking Bradley Cooper, who can write, direct, produce, finance, cater, train animals, and babysit one of the crew members' child named Benny, all while making a movie I am very excited for. Bruce Willis, God bless him, clearly was more of an actor than a writer, and I am going to pay more respect and mind to him because of the whole thing that happened last year. I mean, it's not like he's a bad actor, he's just a bad writer. This dialogue sucks. This dialogue sucks. Following a cat burglar named Hudson Hawk, yeah, my name's Xander Xylophone, he's forced to steal some Da Vinci art for a world domination plot. Da Vinci art. For a world domination plot. Who the fuck dominates the world with the goddamn Mona Lisa? Actually, Da Vinci didn't- shut the fuck up! Hudson Hawk is a very standard bad action movie. It's stupid, it's over the top, and it's just obnoxious. Kind of like me. So what made the movie a flop? Well, critics' reviews definitely didn't help, and overall the film cost a fortune. You're gonna see more of that on this list, but man, this movie was expensive. Especially considering the popularity Willis had before this, with arguably one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time. Oh, I'm James Corden. I'm British, ain't it? Fine, I'll come back. Yeah, this wasn't the big hit the filmmakers were hoping for, and considering they themselves hate the movie, this hawk ain't flying too high.
They're bombs.
Yeah, one of the biggest movies of all time was actually a financial failure. I can see some of the problems. Its competition was huge with movies like Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump within the same release window. It also doesn't help that the prison movies weren't exactly popular back then. Plus, there was a severe lack of female characters, which drove audiences away. Hell, even the title confused people. What the fuck is a redemption? So, on its $25 million budget, the film only made who's fucking with me right now?
They're bombs.
Yo, what the fuck is that?
It's a kid's film, ladies and gents. Doesn't that poster just scream the fun family movie everyone probably expected? I mean, the DVD cover from my mom's collection of movies ain't nobody watching used to scare the shit out of me. But not only is this movie riddled with poor writing and really unlikable characters, but apparently the movie was in development since 1995, with Sam Raimi in the helm. Look, if he was the director, I would buy every DVD copy. In 1997, Warner Brothers actually bothered going forward with the movie, slating it for a holiday 1998 release. And apparently, George Clooney was supposed to be the lead. But not only did Clooney drop out, but Raimi also dropped out. Raimi ended up wanting to direct the pretty acclaimed A Simple Plan, but what would make Clooney drop out? Fucking what? 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 I mean, it's not like he was gonna be in a good movie anyways, but he left one train wreck just to be in another.
This is why Superman works alone.
This is why Superman should have kicked your ass. So instead of Clooney, they casted Michael Keaton. And unfortunately, this became the movie that pretty much ended Keaton's run of stardoming movies. Before this, he was in a movie called Speechless in 1994, Multiplicity in 1996, and Desperate Measures earlier that year. But all things considered, if you can look past its creepy advertising and flawed production, this shouldn't be too hard to make the money. It doesn't have to be good, I mean, it isn't, but come on, it's a family movie. Families love family movies. What could have been the problem? Oh, it lost to a pig? Okay, so this movie had some family movie competition. Big whoop, so did fucking Skyfall. But what did this movie open next to? That's the real question.
Oh my god!
Oh, this movie was doomed from the fucking start.
They're bombs.
Oh, guys, yeah, see, it's in the log line. All the advertising, hell, it's like one of the only lines from the movie people remember. I can't talk about.
They're bombs.
What could have gone wrong with this movie? I'll tell you what. Hey man, want to go see Rocky and Bullwinkle movie? What the fuck is a Bullwinkle? This movie released in 2000. I can understand a movie like the Flintstones or maybe a Jetsons movie existing, but not a fucking Rocky and Bullwinkle movie. That's too far, man. Oh shit, no, that's not.
Staring at your dress cause it's see-through. Yeah, talking all the shit that you done been through. Yeah.
Is that really what we're calling BoJack Horseman fans? The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle is far from a bad movie. On the contrary, it's fun and kind of stupid, but yeah, so what's the show? Yeah, Rocky and Bullwinkle isn't one of those cartoons I don't even think in its prime was all that. Other cartoons existed at the time, and other cartoons definitely excelled over the Moose-Squirrel duo. So a movie released around 4 decades after Rocky and Bullwinkle were even a thing seems like a risky move. We'll take a quick sip of water. It's right here. All right. Stay hydrated. Yeah, there. I can now be considered a role model. The story is filled with cliches, and at times it can get a little annoying, but on a whole, it is a very standard movie. Yes, the animation on Rocky and Bullwinkle is a little weird and kind of looks like they aren't there, because they aren't. But I have to express that this isn't a bad movie. It's just a hell of an expensive one. Holy shit, this movie cost how much? Keep in mind, this was 2 years before Scooby-Doo's movie and 4 years before Garfield's movie. And considering I think the CG looks miles better here than it did in either of those movies, even though I would call Scooby-Doo's movie like 20 times better, it wasn't cheap, and that's ultimately the biggest issue. The other is that I've never met a single person who's ever said, you know what we should see this weekend? Rocky and Bullwinkle. But that brings up a good point. What other movie could have been released that weekend that cost it to lose so much money? Get fucked.
I was just getting jiggy with it.
They're bombs.
Who doesn't love John Travolta? I sure don't. And in the 70s, he had some iconic roles in the iconic movies, Grease and Saturday Night Fever arguably being the biggest ones. And while he doesn't have much in the 80s outside of ruining one of his biggest accomplishments, well, you can tell by the way this movie looks, it's gonna be some bullshit. In the 90s, he had two movies that made him once again a household name, 1994's Pulp Fiction and 1997's Face Off. Travolta started to regain the popularity he had with Grease and Saturday Night Fever. So how does he kick the aughts off? Fuck! Yeah, so this is possibly the single movie that not only made Travolta unpopular again, but it most likely kicked him out of the spotlight for good. At least he made a comeback in the 90s. Outside of Hairspray, I can't think of anything he's been a part of that's been good since this release. Outside of it being a butt-ugly, forgettable mess, what exactly went wrong with this movie? Well, for starters, they fired the original writer J.D. Shapiro. Yeah, big deal, right? What's the budget for this shit show? What? $44 million in 2000? Are you kidding me? And not only that, the film actually ran over budget. Despite having a very small lighting and special effects budget, you know, two things that are crucial in sci-fi flicks, Travolta ended up having to pay $5 million of his pay into productions when funds dried up. A movie like this and funds dried up. Here's an idea, Travolta. Maybe don't go over your fucking budget. Get this. A toy company named Trendmasters put out a toy line for Battlefield Earth. You heard that right. Battlefield Earth toys. They were so certain this was their next IP. And not only that, they expected over $50 million in sales. $50 million! They really thought this was the next big toy line. Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, fucking Travolta! They went bankrupt in 2002. I wonder why. The movie opened up next to Center Stage, Screwed, and Held Up. Not all of that impressive films, but it bowed out to the competition. Not only that, guess what Academy Award winning film would come out that second weekend? In the great words of Alexander Graham Bell, get fucked.
They're bombs.
I don't know, I have a soft spot for this one. It's not good, but is it bad? Not really. The second of the Fox Animation Studios films, following the somewhat successful Anastasia in 1997, I think I said that right. Titan AE was a huge bomb and ended up actually tanking Don Bluth's career. I still respect Bluth's works, but considering his track record in the 90s, it's pretty clear that this was the final blow. Hey, this movie was in production for 18 months. You know what we should do? Fire the director and replace him with Bluth. Alongside his Anastasia co-director, Gary Goldman, the two took over the film and noticed that despite 30 fucking million being spent on the movie already, the film only had a little bit of pre-production done. So with a new budget of $55 million to restart, apparently Bluth and Goldman had to fight with creative executives over the film, and even Goldman considered it not fun filmmaking. So not only that, but also marketing became an issue. See, in 1999, apparently the movie was slated to be a blockbuster, so they had toys, comics, all kinds of tie-ins, but still, the movie didn't seem to have a lot of interest in it. When it released to mixed reviews, it lost to Boys and Girls and Shaft. Y'all lost to a movie called Shaft, you're done! I mean, still, it's not bad, it's just kind of mediocre. And considering one of the directors has All Dogs Go to Heaven, The Secret of Nim, The Land Before Time, and American Tail all under his belt, plus so many others, mediocre just doesn't cut it.
They're bombs.
Wait, Ali was a flop? The Muhammad Ali biopic with Will Smith? I don't know, I thought that was a pretty decent flick. Far from perfect, but kind of like Titan AE or Rocky and Bullwinkle, I swore this was better than it turned out to be. I mean, what could have, holy shit, $118 million for a goddamn biopic? After doing some research, you know how much Bohemian Rhapsody, a movie that utilizes way more in terms of production cost to produce? $50 million. It shouldn't cost $118 million to produce a movie about a boxer. And if you want to blame it on the flashy nature of boxing or it being an older movie, I don't want to fucking hear it. Rocky had a budget of under $1 million and turned out a Best Picture winner in 1976. It also doesn't help with the movies that surrounded this film's release. This was a Christmas 2001 release, and while the movie it released next to was Kate and Leopold, a movie I wouldn't have even known had I not done the bomb report research. The release window before it might also have a bit of a play in its failure. Fellowship of the Ring, Jimmy Neutron, you're done. Yeah, with a $118 million budget for a biopic that wasn't even released at the time. Motherfucker! Yeah, with a $118 million budget for a biopic that wasn't even released at the time biopics were big bucks, it's pretty clear how this movie didn't make the money back. It's not even a bad movie, in fact. I think it's pretty damn good. But considering its massive budget, this movie couldn't fight back.
They're bombs.
Who the hell looked at Final Fantasy and said, you know what, this is missing? Alec Baldwin. It's not even a surprise to me this movie is on this list. Don't get me wrong, it could be way worse, but it's pretty dated animation, it's really forgettable story and characters, and just an overall lack of focus really does make the film a really bad time. And I got on Ali for having a huge budget. This movie had a $137 million budget. And on its release date of July 11th, it seemed to pull in an okay $5 million. However, it opened next to Legally Blonde. Not to mention the score was also released. Listen, that was my introduction to Fight Club. I saw Edward Norton and said, you know what, fuck you, I'm going to talk about Fight Club. And guess what? That $137 million budget I just discussed, yeah, it made back about $32 million. $100 million loss, that's tough. It caused Square, the guys behind the Final Fantasy games, to quit the movie business as they were heavily involved with the production. Overall, it's not a very good movie, and for once, the numbers show it.
They're bombs.
Hey, remember when I said in the Oscar video I never want to talk about Monkey Bone ever again? Well, Monkey Bone is a very strange, over-the-top, and sometimes even annoying flick that clearly wants to capture the feel of movies like Nightmare Before Christmas, mixed with the hybrid movies like Roger Rabbit. But in the end, it becomes so lost in finding an identity, I just say to myself, I watched a movie about Brendan Fraser interacting with a claymation monkey, and somehow I didn't like it. It's just so over-the-top, and not in the ways that make more enjoyable over-the-top movies work. I should mention the director of this movie was actually Henry Selick, who directed The Nightmare Before Christmas, which you would think equals a very interesting story, but it really doesn't. What's interesting is despite the movie having a $75 million budget, it couldn't even make that back. It was delayed a hell of a lot of times, only made back about $5 million domestically. And the worst, the absolute worst thing of all, the cherry on top, it released next to fucking 3,000 miles from Graceland! Stop giving these shitty action movies the green light! Not to mention in the third weekend, Hannibal came out, so it's pretty much a disaster all around. What can be said, losing $70 million domestically on a budget that, given the premise at least, should have made its money back, it's pretty clear the movie wasn't all that. Thank God Brendan Fraser was in The Whale. I would have never forgiven him for this. But I love him.
They're bombs.
What kind of sucks about Osmosis Jones being a flop is that it's not a bad movie in my opinion. Is it great? No. Is it top tier writing? Not at all. But I found it charming enough, despite the movie coming out in 2001, it really captures that 90s kids film feel. But what sucks for the movie is that it was in a lineup of films that pretty much killed WB feature animation. Sure, they had the big hit with Space Jam in 1996, but in 1998 they had Quest for Camelot, which was just a big box office disaster, not to mention the movie itself sucks. In 1999, they had the acclaimed flop The Iron Giant, which is such a good movie. Go watch it, it's great. Then they had this, but come on, they had to have one last hurrah, right? Back in action. Awesome. But it doesn't help that this was yet another $75 million budget that was pretty much tanked due to making $13 million domestically. Not as embarrassing as Monkey Bone, but not exactly good either. Considering this and Back in Action served as death blows to WB feature animation, it kinda sucks it couldn't have been a bigger hit. But all this said, maybe it wasn't because the film was bad or anything. Maybe it released next to a big blockbuster. American Pie 2? American Pie fucking 2? All these comedy movies came out in 2001 and y'all lost to fucking American Pie 2? Alright, before I have a brain aneurysm, clearly I'm missing something. Sucks that this and Iron Giant were flops.
They're bombs.
Do I even have to say it?
Why are you people seeing Pluto Nash? Really?
We don't even play it at this theater.
Pluto Nash is one of Eddie Murphy's crowning disasters. In the 80s, Eddie Murphy was one of the biggest comedy stars, having Beverly Hills Cop, Coming to America, and The Golden Child. He was clearly becoming a big comedy name. Until the 90s. Yeah, in the 90s, he seemed to have a lot of really mixed films, like Dr. Dolittle, Another 48 Hours, Beverly Hills Cop 3, and The Nutty Professor. But a 1998 animated flick seemed to prove he still had it. Mulan. Voicing Mushu, this was clearly showing his comedy still worked, as it became a huge part of the movie, especially with younger audiences. He was also in Shrek, which, I don't know, I guess that did good. And in 2002, he had his biggest hit yet. Well, actually, all things considered, this movie was originally developed in the 80s, was rewritten multiple times, and when it finally re-emerged to audiences, it became one of the most notorious box office bombs in a while. After reshoots, the film's total cost added up to $100 million. Bowing to its competitor, Blue Crush, this movie only pulled in about $4 million domestically. $4 million! Losing $96 million? Yep, that's about as bad as it gets.
Hold up.
They're bombs.
I'll be honest at first, I didn't know much about this movie. I recognized the name, but I hadn't watched it. So I checked it out, and yeah, 14 million at the box office oddly checks out. This is such a stupid flick. It checks off all the boxes of being a dumb, over-the-top action flick. It makes sense that this was made by the same company behind Battlefield Earth, huh? Doesn't make money or make audiences happy. Y'all deserve to get sued in 2004. And if you thought the Pluto Nash stuff was bad, sure, Pluto Nash is notably a bigger flop, but this movie is one of the few films with a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, making a slivering 7 million its first weekend. Also having the comedy classic Barbershop as a competitor, it bowed out of theaters with 14 million. Against a notable 70 million budget. But also considering this film was somewhat funded by Germany, which had a set up 133 million tax fund. So, what's the budget of this film? Yes.
They're bombs.
Ah yes, one of the few movies I hate didn't do good. Treasure Planet is quite possibly one of the most known animated flops alongside The Iron Giant. And like most people who grew up with it, I have to say, God damn it. This movie is really cool, giving us a really cool idea, a different take on the Treasure Island style. It's not Disney's finest, but this was just such a freaking sweet movie. Apparently a sequel got canceled because of its flop. Though two things definitely don't help with this film. A, it had a $140 million budget, and only made back about $38 million domestically. And then B, this movie followed a series of films that weren't exactly big bucks for Disney. Not to mention this movie's ad campaign was hilariously expensive, having partnerships with McDonald's, Pepsi-Cola, and Kellogg's, just to name a few. But this movie's success was pretty much written. It opened next to 8 Crazy Nights. It's hilarious, and Wes Craven Presents Day. This movie was bound to succeed, or not. Yeah, it doesn't help that this movie released the same release window as the second Harry Potter movie. It's not even the good one, jeez. And in its 5th week in release, it lost to Santa Claus 2. Y'all lost to your own movie! This sucks. I gotta say, I can't bring myself to hate this movie. It's too fun. If you like Disney classics, you'll definitely like this one. Still, losing a little over 100 million domestically is no easy feat.
They're bombs.
Jeez, I got on Pluto Nash for being a notable box office bomb. Giggly cost approximately $75 million to produce and only made $6 million domestically. And while we're at it, it only made about $7 million worldwide. Not to say Pluto Nash had any real success overseas, but let's just get into it. The movie stars Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. Oops, back when Jennifer Lopez had a promising career in acting. But at least Ben Affleck recovered. Oh, uh-oh. Yikes. Well, at least he made the decision to take a short leave, and look at where that got him, damn it. Well, at least he directed Air, and Argo, so suck my nuts. It also doesn't help that this movie had a lot of toxic buzz, especially considering Affleck and J-Lo's relationship during the time. They had officially split in January of 2004, so there's that. This film tanked due to its reputation it had received, getting crowned by critics as one of the worst, and of course, opening next to a better American Pie sequel, American Wedding. And if you can believe me, we're not done with this studio. Revolution also made the next film we're about to talk about, and while it's not the absolute worst film they made, Giggly is a disastrous crime comedy that deserves its hate. Literally nothing about this movie adds up to even a tolerable watch.
They're bombs.
Man, God bless Revolution Studios. In 2003, they just had a string of box office flops. Giggly, as we just discussed, Tears of the Sun, Hollywood Homicide, and the 2003 Peter Pan film. And while it's not bad, it is forgettable. Nothing stands out from other Peter Pan adaptations for me. Originally having a budget of $100 million, it later got $130.6 million after Universal came in. Releasing in Christmas of 2003, well that sucks. Yeah, it doesn't help that a literal billion-dollar club flick came around when this movie released. And despite the decent reviews, families wanted to see Steve Martin. Seriously, how did it lose such cheaper by the fucking dozen? Only making back about $48 million domestically, it's pretty clear this movie, while decent, didn't stand out enough. And it might have played a part in the doors closing for Revolution Studios. Or it was this piece of shit, but I already talked about that.
Boo-boo keys. They're bombs.
Okay, I've already discussed this movie in a video you can't watch anymore. Thanks, YouTube! But I guess I should also discuss the history of this movie. See, DreamWorks Animation were slowly but surely turning out movies that weren't bad, but weren't box office giants like what Pixar and Disney were putting out. Sure, Prince of Egypt was a modest hit, but then they followed up 2 years later with the box office poison that was Road to El Dorado. And then in another 2 years saw the underperforming Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron. Fuck. Now, neither of those movies I would consider bad, but clearly DreamWorks needed a hit. Could Brad Pitt as the legend Sinbad turn DreamWorks around? Nope. With a budget of $100 million and a domestic gross of $26 million, this was by far the biggest DreamWorks flop since The Road to El Dorado. and it doesn't help that the film itself isn't the greatest. And as for its competition, well, we have a shitty Legally Blonde sequel. What's missing? A shitty Terminator sequel, of course! It also doesn't help that Sinbad had some pretty steep animation competition with Pixar's Finding Nemo, which was in its 6th weekend and going strong. But what I find interesting, though yes, the domestic gross was bad, overseas it did better, pulling in $54 million. I mean, it's still not the budget, but you rarely see Western animation do better overseas than it does domestically. So I found that interesting. Wait a minute. Wait. That makes no sense. Okay, forget I said that.
You went to Cranbrook. That's a private school. What's the matter, dog? You in Paris? This guy's a gangster. His real name is Clarence.
They're bombs.
Funny enough, this film competed with another Alexander the Great film that would have been directed by Baz Luhrmann. But this movie got the rights first, and instead it was Oliver Stone's Alexander that made it to theaters. Well, not the greatest film out there, and it's not bad, honestly. The action is solid, but the acting is a bit off. It's hard to make a warrior like Alexander the Great boring, and they don't do that in my opinion. Though yes, the fact that Angelina Jolie is supposed to play Alexander's mother, yet she's only a year older than Colin Farrell who played Alexander, yeah, that's annoying. But to the film's problem, it cost $155 million to make. Yikes. And how much did it make back domestically? Double yikes. Okay, well, what movies came out against it? Triple yikes, dude. Yeah, on top of the movie not being the greatest, the big budget mixed with its release issues definitely made this a notable flop. Which is also interesting to say because overseas the film actually did way better. Yeah, it made $133 million overseas. That's almost the budget. What is it with French people and killers? Ugh. Water. 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 I need it. Ugh. Oh. Ugh. Somebody stop me. Fuck. There we go.
They're bombs.
$115 million budget for fucking around the world in 80 days. Don't blame it on the story being a lot more advanced. The 1956 movie had a $6 million budget, and that shit is somehow a Best Picture winner. I mean, no, I don't think the movie's still what a sane person would call good, but it seems like in 2004, Disney was just destined to make their own adaptation, with Jackie Chan and Steve Coogan. Who the fuck greenlit this movie? I mean, I give this film credit, it is only boring. Like, it's not overly annoying or overly stupid, it's just boring. It's a boring film. If you've read the book, you know the film. But outside of being a pretty expensive movie to make, and also being based on a story apparently only British people can make work, it also entered theaters in June 2004. These family movies were in theaters already. But give the movie a chance. At least it didn't open up against Shrek 2 or Prisoner of Azkaban. It opened next to Dodgeball in the Terminal. So therefore, in the wise words of Bruce Lee, get fucked.
They're bombs.
The Chronicles of Riddick has Vin Diesel. I see how it flopped. Okay, to Diesel and the studio's credit, I can see why they thought him being in this would have been the big bucks. Because 3 years before this movie had released, he had a modest hit with The Fast and Furious in 2001. We see how that worked out, but problems began when Diesel was in another action hit, Triple X, in 2002. So, seeing how big he was, he tried renegotiating for both this and Too Fast, Too Furious. And what was Universal's response? Fuck you on Vin Diesel's Your Fast and Furious sequel. That's right, he was removed from Too Fast, Too Furious, and Riddick got the green light. Of course, in the 2 years before Riddick released, Diesel was in 2 other bombs, Knock Around Guys, and A Man Apart. When the film did release, considering its $110 million budget, it released next to The Stepford Wives and Garfield the Movie. Garfield the Movie was the only movie that weekend to succeed. When your movie is so goddamn awful, they would rather watch Bill Murray as Garfield, you did something wrong. The biggest issue with this movie comes from the advertising. After the 2 bombs I mentioned earlier, Vin Diesel wasn't even the selling point, rather the cinematic experience. Quite an experience, Universal. Oh, who am I kidding? This is the studio that milked any potential out of dinosaurs being in movies. Thanks, guys. What can I say? It's about as entertaining as pushing a motherfucker named Gilbert out of a plane 50,000 feet up in the sky. Actually, that sounds fun.
The Minions! They're bombs.
Harrison Ford, Brendan Fraser, Matthew McConaughey. 2 of these people I buy as adventurers. Sahara was a mismanaged project from the start. Granted, it's not the worst adventure film out there, but, you know, a few things are doable. Your girl is a cutie, but you... Philip Anschutz, I think I said that right, originally bought rights to the book Sahara. And yes, book rights are important. You have to consider that this is someone else's property that you're buying. But $10 million fucking dollars? Well, the film was financed through Anschutz distribution company Bristle Bay, and the cast was set to feature some, at the time, really big names. Matthew McConaughey, what's he been in recently? I think the last time I remember him being in something was Sing 2, and he wasn't even him, he was a koala. And that was 2 years ago at this point. What the fuck has he been? Steve Zahn, Penelope Cruz, because we had to have a hot female side character. I don't know, these preferred adventure movies always had those for some reason. I mean, William H. Macy, Rainn Wilson. At the time, these were some really solid names. Wilson had just premiered on The Office that year, and Macy, I mean, he was in Fargo. Apparently there was a lot of legal drama that went on. Believe it or not, this movie's biggest competition was the rom-com Fever Pitch. It still somehow bombed. I mean, it's not a terrible movie, it's just unfocused and just overall not top tier. Considering how similar these movies are getting, you have to stand out. But what about Indiana Jones 5? Please let it be good.
They're bombs.
While the Vin Diesel film in 2002 was a modest success, just like Fast and Furious, for some reason, these action movies like to think that the best way to make more money is to drop Vin Diesel. He is literally Dom Toretto. Instead, we have Ice Cube and, Willem Dafoe's there. Samuel L. Jackson. Okay, yeah, the sequel's not too good. Despite the pretty great cast, the film itself is slow. Doesn't really have much I would recommend. You could just watch the first film and honestly, you would get the better movie. This one is just kind of a letdown. By no means bad, but how do I put this? Jump Street gave Ice Cube more acting cred. At least it had this scene.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! No! That's not happening right now! No! Hey, he's fucking his daughter! No!
Anytime you say that shit, there's another foot in your ass.
And what's that? You think this movie is in the exclusive 100 million loss club? Well, you are correct, because this movie lost around that amount. Unfortunately, the original director turned it down to make Stealth. Fucking Stealth. And Diesel actually dropped out to be in his own disaster. You know the film is bad when people would rather watch Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I mean, it's not a terrible film, it's just, I don't know that many people knew what that was. I mean, considering it only had that as big competition, it is disappointing that after a somewhat successful first film, State of the Union could make a statement. But hey, they made a third movie in 2017. It's been 15 years!
They're bombs.
By the time of his passing, director Wolfgang Petersen had some of the biggest movies of all time. Some of his timeless classics with The Never-Ending Story, Das Boot, having a role on movies like In the Line of Fire, Outbreak, Air Force One, and The Perfect Storm, all back to back. Just being a celebrated director, bringing these amazing stories to life. I don't have to explain shit to you. Yeah, for some reason, this, Troy, and his last movie that I can't even pronounce were not exactly the best movies. This was his last big, well, American movie, I guess. Not his last movie overall, but it was the last one to be seen as a big release. Costing a record-breaking $160 million to make, the biggest budget we've had so far on this list. And unfortunately, even after making a huge marketing campaign, the movie didn't attract audiences, going against Just My Luck that weekend. Where have I heard that movie before?
Oh my god!
Guys, the Lindsay Lohan movie? You guys lost to the fucking Lindsay Lohan movie? I mean, it's not like this is a top-tier film, but at least it's interesting in parts. The characters aren't all that great, but the visuals and intense escape scenes can be fun at times. Y'all lost to the fucking Lindsay Lohan movie? It also doesn't help that Mission Impossible 3 released at that point, and sadly, that was the point the Mission Impossible movies were actually getting popular. Poseidon, these nuts in your mouth, dude.
They're bombs.
Tim Allen really looked at Sky High and said, oh, I can do that, but bad. Zoom is a very unlikable, most of the time unfunny, and all the time unfocused mess that ends up sinking the film lower and lower as it goes along. It's so clear how much of this we've seen before, especially considering, in my opinion, a much better superhero training movie released just a year earlier. But back to Zoom, Tim Allen, surprisingly, isn't a very likable main character. In fact, he's kind of a dick. He really looked at Kurt Russell's character from Sky High and said, ooh, but what if he was a womanizer? But now to logistics, the movie costed around the average of $75 million to make, but it couldn't even pull in that, and such made $11 million domestically. What is it with these movies and not being able to make back $75 million? Not to mention the movie actually bombed worse overseas, pulling about $516,000 overall. They didn't even reach $1 million! Far worse movies have at least done that. Zoom is an unfocused mess, and it's not too surprising it bombed. It released next to Step Up, World Trade Center, and Pulse. I would consider one of these movies to be good. That's right, Step Up. The movie also garnered the rare 0% when it came out. Now I looked and it doesn't have it anymore. It still has a 4%, but you know, funny's funny. And considering this movie was around in theaters at the same time as Talladega Nights, yeah, in the wise words of the great Michael Keaton, get fucked.
They're bombs.
Bruce Almighty didn't need a sequel. Yet in 2007, we got Evan Almighty, a pretty bad sequel considering the first one wasn't even that great. Give Bruce Almighty this, it is funny. Just occasionally. This is one of those movies I might have laughed once, but never again. It is such an unfunny film. Despite having really funny people in it, Steve Carell usually delivers a laugh, and he does with the one laugh this movie gets. But even in the worst of his films, he can be constantly funny. He made Welcome to Marwen somewhat enjoyable. It's still one of Robert Zemeckis' objectively worst movies, but he made it a little better. At least the budget couldn't have been that big. That's bigger than Poseidon's! And at least Poseidon was at times pretty to look at. How did this movie cost $175 million to make? And you know what's even funnier? The fact that it still made $100 million at the box office. Yes, it still made a pretty decent amount. It wouldn't have been a flop had it not cost $175 million fucking dollars. It is a shame that this movie opened next to 1408, a horror film I deeply love. Because guess what? Even though its $31 million opening weekend was disappointing, it still was #1 that weekend. Thankfully, Ratatouille came out the next weekend and family said, finally, a family movie that's not dog shit. I guess it's also not a big surprise that this film had some advertising problems too, including the director having a big outburst over the marketing costs. Strange. Overall, taking in theater takes and all that, it still lost at least $100 million. Maybe, just maybe, this movie wouldn't have had to deal with that if it didn't cost $175 million!
They're bombs.
You know, finally, we have a movie I actually kind of feel bad bombed. Speed Racer is a very fun film. It's okay and all over the place, but it's also colorful, has some interesting plot and characters, and honestly feels like Speed Racer. Don't get me wrong, it's still not a great film, but it's got the Matrix directors on it, and it shows. It just sucks the movie, being as stylistic and as cool as it is, costs about $120 million to make. And all things considered, $43 million is a sad number. Obviously, the advertising was strange because the show was from the late 60s. I mean, I guess there's a few kids who might recognize it, but hold on. From the creators of the Matrix trilogy was plastered everywhere in advertising. So you want this film to be a big family hit, yet you're advertising that this comes from the directors of not 1, but 3 rated R flicks? Well, okay, maybe it opened next to a big movie that could have costed it a few big bucks. It opened next to an Ashton Kutcher rom-com, cool. But don't worry, it also released the second weekend Iron Man was out, ouch. And also not to mention the Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian was also released in the following weekend. Double ouch. Thankfully, the Wachowskis came back with at least an ambitious flop in Cloud Atlas, and we don't talk about Jupiter Ascending. Don't you fucking dare!
They're bombs.
What is it with creepy Christmas movies and bombing? A Christmas Carol, the Jim Carrey one, it's weird that I have to specify, notably has yet again the biggest budget we've seen on this list yet. Poseidon had $160 million, fucking Evan Almighty had $175 million. This movie cost $190 million. And what's interesting is that it didn't really have any release issues. It was quite a modest hit at the box office, even ranking #1 for a weekend or two. It's just that the movie cost a fortune and not even Bill Gates could resupply that money. I mean, he could, but who cares? It's fucking Christmas Carol.
They're bombs.
It is really funny that this joke I made about 3 years ago, you thought How Do You Know was a good send-off, comes full circle all this time later. How Do You Know isn't a great film, but kind of like The Bucket List or any of Jack Nicholson's lesser films, it's still fine, just not his best. And considering this dude's filmography, let's just be happy he ended on a somewhat poetic note. What killed this movie was once again its $120 million budget. Speed Racer made this in 2008 with a box of scrap. But come on, what came out that weekend that, why do I even ask that? Oh, you just showed me that It also doesn't help that 2 really decent flicks came out in wide release, The Fighter and Black Swan. So seeing this just to see a more adult film seems a bit ridiculous. I do want to reiterate, this film is not bad, it's just average, and all things considered, average is a really good send-off for an actor like Nicholson.
They're bombs.
You know, it's funny that I didn't even know this movie existed until Nostalgia Critic talked about it. What is with creepy Christmas movies and bombing? At least Jack Frost happened 11 years before A Christmas Carol. This was the following year. And not only was the film panned and considered a lackluster experience, you see those 2 items on the poster? 3D? You bet your ass this movie cost a fortune because of that gimmick. Okay, all things considered, it only costs about $90 million. Still a major budget, but at least it's not $190 million. But $90 million for a Nutcracker movie? Piece of cake, right? It didn't even make $1 million. Ouch. You know what was missing from the Nutcracker? Nazis. This film sucks. Moving on.
They're bombs.
No fucking chance.
They're moms.
Hey, remember how A Christmas Carol was a flop but people really liked it? Well, Mars Needs Moms was a huge disaster when it came out, and is often considered one of Disney's worst, having a $150 million budget. If Christmas Carol set up Image Movers' failure, then this movie paid the fucking funeral costs. This movie was such a bomb, it shut down Image Movers, after their string of mocap movies, The Polar Express, Beowulf, and the previously mentioned Christmas Carol. It's just sad because, as The Polar Express and even Christmas Carol showed, this wasn't a bad company. They just had some big flops. The kid in this movie is so annoying. He's a little shit in God, not at all relatable. No child, at least at his age, would ever say he wishes his mom would disappear. I hate movies that think that's a thing. It's ugly to look at, it's not even interesting. It's so boring. None of the characters are at all charming or interesting. But to semantics, the movie already had some steep competition as the literal future Best Animated Feature winner, Rango, had released the weekend before. What did it open next to? Okay, that weekend just sucked, but whatever. It also doesn't help that despite the movie seeming like it was going to flop from the beginning, they still had an expensive marketing push, and even an IMAX run, for a movie that looks like this! No wonder I don't pay the extra $15 for an IMAX ticket. Overall, Mars Needs Moms was a huge bomb, shut down Image Movers, and yeah, it's just bad.
They're bombs.
Okay, so the thing about this movie is what the fuck? $209 million went into the stinker, and of course, that shit only grossed $65 million. A little around $150 million loss. Ouch. The movie cost a fortune to make, not to mention the hilariously expensive advertising campaign, and when it released, it opened next to The Dictator and What to Expect When You're Expecting. Neither of these movies are considered flops, and that's fucking hilarious. Not to mention the movie is just hilariously stupid, and overall, it wasn't worth the money that went into it. Also, keep in mind, this movie was in theaters at the same times as The Avengers and Men in Black 3. Get... Oh.
They're bombs.
So guess what? You thought $209 million for Battleship was bad? Well, $263.7 million to make this film. That, to its credit, isn't the worst Disney's made. But after only grossing $73 million, not only was the film another bomb for Taylor Kitsch, who was also in the previous film, but it pretty much killed any chance at the John Carter franchise. And again, the film isn't bad. Its script, acting, and special effects are thought pretty good. Not to mention the music is great. It also doesn't help that, as I mentioned, Disney planned a franchise for this movie. Again, maybe having one sequel in mind, but a fucking franchise? Really? And of course, the advertising was huge and expensive. And as my good buddy and co-CEO could attest, they had like John Carter's and shit every Disney World. Oh my god, I swear to God. He said it just like that. Squigs is actually, he's pretty cool actually. Squigs is a cool guy. The film opened next to Silent House and 1,000 Words, yet another Eddie Murphy film to be a flop, and was also in theaters the same weekend as The Lorax. Damn it.
They're bombs.
I hate every fiber of money that didn't go to this movie. Rise of the Guardians is such a fun movie, a different take on holiday icons. Hugh Jackman playing the Easter Bunny, Chris Pine playing Jack Frost, Isla Fisher. I think it's Isla Fisher. I should have really Googled it before I fucking recorded the voice. Isla Fisher playing the Tooth Fairy, and Alec Baldwin playing a Russian Santa Claus. Okay, that was weird. This movie is so creative, and it sucks that it flops so hard. With a $145 million budget, the movie still made $100 million domestically, but considering its budget, it still flopped, and killed any potential sequels. Okay, but to this film's credit, maybe it just opened next to a big budget movie. It opened next to fucking Red Dawn! I mean, sure, it also opened next to Life of Pi, which is a fantastic film, but really? Also keep in mind that Wreck-It Ralph was in its 4th weekend, so it had animation competition too. And of course, because filmgoers hate me, it also lost to fucking Twilight.
They're bombs.
I hate that anything outside of The Matrix or John Wick could just be described as Keanu Reeves, you know? 47 Ronin was a disaster. Having a $175 million budget and only making $38 million domestically, $140 million loss. The film is bad, but I do think Reeves has far worse movies in his career. This is definitely a low point, but it's just kind of standard bad, not one of the worst. The film opened next to Wolf of Wall Street, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, Believe, and Grudge Match. Yeah, only one of those movies was a flop. I at least appreciate that people bothered seeing Walter Mitty because that's genuinely a great adaptation. Y'all should check it out, it's pretty great.
I give it a thumbs up, Holmes.
Considering the film's budget and the fact that the film didn't do too hot with critics or audiences proves this was doomed from the release.
They're bombs.
Okay, so Disney has quite a few flops since we started this list. Treasure Planet, Mars Needs Moms, John Carter. Nothing quite like The Lone Ranger, with a hilarious $250 million estimated budget and only making back $89 million domestically. The film costed a fortune and opened next to fucking Despicable Me 3. It also opened next to Kevin Hart, Let Me Explain. You're telling me the $250 million Disney movie lost to Minions and Kevin Hart? Oh, and the film also really sucks. Yeah, like, this is one of my least favorite Disney movies, I think, of all time. I don't know the original source material, but honestly, this movie is bland, forgettable, and it's just an overall mess. Despite having the, at the time, really talented Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp in it. Yeah, Jesus, this just sucked.
They're bombs.
Okay, even taking in the $154 million budget, considering the film is stupid and doesn't really add up, and considering that Netflix felt that goddamn nerve to make a sequel nearly a decade after this film, R.I.P.D. is actually okay in my opinion. I mean, it's not a great film or even that good, but it's creative enough, it can be fun, and overall Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds have some really good chemistry. But now to the legalities. As I mentioned, the film cost $154 million to make, and overall made $33 million domestically. Funniest thing with this movie was easily its release. Obviously, it was going to lose to The Conjuring, but it also lost to Turbo, which had Ryan Reynolds in it, Red 2, the sequel to the movie R.I.P.D.'s director had made, and still opened to a terrible $12 million opening weekend. The film, in my opinion, might not be great, but it's creative enough. But considering it was called a Men in Black knockoff, I can see why it flopped.
They're bombs.
Yeah, not fucking happening.
They're bombs.
The Good Dinosaur isn't Pixar's worst, but it still is pretty bland, and overall, I just don't care for it the way I care for Pixar's best. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not bad, it's just okay. I can't see why it cost $200 million to make, though, and only making back $123 million domestically. You know, even Pixar's worst made money.
I want you.
What?
This is also, hilariously, the fourth Pixar movie to replace its original director, following Ratatouille, Cars 2, and Brave. Competing against the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, yeah, I see how this didn't do too hot. It just sucks because this is far from Pixar's worst, it's just a standard animated movie. And when it's the studio behind this...
Paris? All this time, I've been under...
Yeah, standard animated movies are for minions. But the worst part, everyone ditched this movie to go see some movie called The Force Awakens. What the
They're bombs.
Oh, the Wachowskis. Yeah, I give Speed Racer this. At least it was interesting. This is just... yeah. With a $179 million budget, the film only made back $47 million, which means it lost $132 million, even more so. The marketing for this film never seemed to click with audiences, and you know it's bad because it lost a fucking sponge out of the water. Get stuff. There was also the big Oscar buzz movie American Sniper, which was a pretty big hit, and the less than blockbuster was doomed to $47 million domestically. But they made The Matrix.
They're bombs.
Well, it was only a matter of time before Guy Ritchie showed up on this list. In the past, I've discussed my love for this director, but making a movie based on a series from the 60s, I mean, we saw how good that worked out, but... At least this one, it wasn't a big budget to begin with. But in some respects, a small budget not being able to be made back can still be a terrible feat. Originally, the film was supposed to star Tom Cruise, but he said, I've done like 20 of these damn spy movies, and he opted out. So Henry Cavill came in, and the film costed about $84 million to produce. I want to stress, the film is pretty damn fun. Not to the Mission Impossible spy movie standards, but considering who's behind it, this is pretty solid. The film had competition that weekend with Straight Outta Compton, and I don't care how much I praise this movie, Corey Hawkins looks straight up like Dr. Dre, so yeah. Not to mention in the third weekend, oh look at that, the Mission Impossible movie. Yeah, it only made about $45 million, but it's not a bad movie, it's just, it had some steep competition.
They're bombs.
What is it about Peter Pan movies and bombing? Pan is the 2015 adaptation of the story, and yeah, it's kind of all over the place. And unlike the 2003 movie, it's not even that great. It's just, yeah, it's all over the place. Having a $150 million budget also doesn't help. Yeah, it was nice to have one movie on this list that wasn't a $200 billion movie to make. The funniest thing is that Warner Brothers thought this would be their next big epic franchise. And you want to know what they thought this would be akin to? Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I relate Neverland to fucking Middle-earth and Hogwarts. Yeah, no, Not to mention the movie gained some negativity over Rooney Mara as Tiger Lily. Look, any negativity a film gets before it's even released, we're just looking at the average Ghostbusters 2016 trailer. The movie was met with poor reviews and had to compete with The Martian and Hotel Transylvania 2. Fun for the whole family. Oh, and Hotel Transylvania was good too. Overall, this led to yet another Warner misfire in 2015 following They Did Matrix, so they're perfect.
Lamborghini.
They're bombs.
I guess I should let it be known, I don't think Tomorrowland is a bad movie. Is it good? Not really, but the ideas are really creative, Clooney and all of them are great, and overall, I can't sit here and tell you I didn't have fun with at least the idea. But yeah, the story is very slow and kind of drags over time. But that's not to discount the $190 million that went into this movie. The budget for this movie is ridiculous. But funny enough, they included a 7-minute sneak preview of this movie in IMAX screenings of fucking Age of Ultron. Yeah, they really wanted this movie to succeed. They were willing to sneak a little preview of it into Age of Ultron. Yeah, here's the real audience reaction. Man, that Marvel movie was insane, dude. I wonder what they're gonna do with that purple razor. And now a preview of Tomorrowland. What the fuck is a Tomorrowland? The film opened next to the Poltergeist remake, and it was actually #1 at the box office. But it couldn't make back $190 million, sadly. It got Brad Bird, the director of The Iron Giant. Oh my god! If this guy didn't direct 2 of Pixar's finest, I feel like he wouldn't even be considered for movies. Like, he's lucky he's such a creative guy. Overall, I do wish this movie did better, but I understand the issues the movie went through.
They're bombs.
Ben-Hur is a remake of a 1950s movie, and a lot of people didn't watch it. Yeah, $100 million to make it happen, and a $26 million domestic gross. It did fare better overseas, but still not to its budget. The film was delayed multiple times, and as the release date approached, there was no marketing for it. Not a single, still. August 19th was the weekend of Ben-Hur, War Dogs, and another flop that's actually good, Kubo and the Two Strings. And I get the movie's a faith-based film, but man, this marketing approach was weak. Again, I get the church advertising and all that, but considering the film lost in weekends led by Suicide Squad and Seth Rogen plays a wiener, this film bombed hard. Considering there wasn't even a lot of advertising for it until later on, it's clear the film was all but too flawed.
They're bombs.
Hell yeah, the Doom movie. Big fucking gun. Let's go. Let's fucking go. The BFG. I want to elaborate. This isn't a terrible movie. It's just, it's so sappy. So goddamn sappy. It sucks because I do want to enjoy this movie. I've enjoyed Roald Dahl's adaptations in the past, so it kind of sucks this wasn't better. The movie had a $140 million budget, and while its overseas gross was actually decent with $127 million, the film bombed pretty hard domestically with a $55 million gross. When it came out, it competed against Finding Dory, Tarzan, and The Purge election year. This was a 4th of July release? What the fuck? What about the big friendly gizzard told you this was a big July 4th weekend release? Not to mention the family market only got more cluttered following Ice Age Collision Courses released the next weekend. Yeah, the movie lost $90 million approximately. Sucks to suck, big flipping Goomba.
They're bombs.
Hell no.
They're bombs.
Holy shit, 2016 sucked, dude. Gods of Egypt was a February 2016 release. A February release for a year that notably wasn't the best for film. Yikes. But at least it's an action movie with Gerard Butler. God damn it! This stinker costed $140 million and was the result of Lionsgate realizing, shit, Hunger Games is over. So they literally tried to make anything they made into a new franchise. Mordecai, The Last Witch Hunter, American Ultra, and this. You know what's bad when Gerard Butler would rather promote London Has Fallen over this on social media? Also, despite this being, I don't know, Gods of Egypt, almost every actor in this movie is white. History, ladies and gentlemen. When the film's release came, its biggest competition was Deadpool and Eddie the Eagle. Yeah, this movie was doomed.
They're bombs.
I mean, this is just a standard bad fantasy flick. It's not nearly as bad as some others, but it's not good either. This film's budget was $115 million, and it made back about $48 million. At this point, it's just getting ridiculous. The film opened to the natural reaction for any Chris Hemsworth movie that's not Marvel. It was fucking awful. Okay, I don't think it's that bad, but whatever. The film declined so badly that all the new releases, none of them being for the same audience as Winter War, all did way better. Keanu, Mother's Day, and Ratchet & Clank. And Ratchet & Clank was also a flop. Again, I can't act like this was like an awful film that deserves every bit of hate. It's still pretty bad.
They're bombs.
It's sad that monster trucks didn't work out. I really enjoy the concept, but the execution could have been better. The film cost a whopping $125 million to make and came from the former Paramount president Adam Goodman's, at the time, 4-year-old son, who had the idea of an actual monster inside a monster truck. Well, I can understand that you get your good ideas from your children. Yeah, not only is the idea of a monster in a monster truck quite similar to another concept that Paramount happens to run, I don't blame the kid. I had those silly ideas when I was this age too. It's called being creative and using your imagination. But Mr. Goodman, it becomes a problem when you not only bank a movie's production on that idea, but you think it can create a big franchise for you too. Yeah, monster trucks should just sell as well as Transformers, right guys? And again, I don't blame the 4-year-old. It's a creative idea. I blame his stupid fucking dad. The film itself is very much boring and 90 minutes of nothing happening. This being said, it was paired next to the relatively cheap yet effective horror flick The Bye-Bye Man. I mean, it's not a good film, but given its budget, I wasn't looking for... Wait, I'm not roasting The Bye-Bye Man, so...
They're bombs.
Like father, like son. The original Blade Runner was a notable flop when it released back in 1982, but Bomb Report doesn't seem to have a page on it. So, to recap, film cost a fortune, was a hit with audiences and critics, fucking blew at the box office. And what can be said, history repeats itself. I should elaborate, Blade Runner 2049 is a phenomenal movie. Visually stunning, and interesting story and characters, this is really great. It's just that the film cost $150 million, you know, people would rather watch My Little Pony. Curse you, Hasbro scum! I really have nothing to say here. It sucks that this movie bombed like it did, because it is really a great film. A perfectly serviceable sequel to Blade Runner, both in quality and in the finances.
They're bombs.
Hey, Guy Ritchie's back, and this time I can't defend this one all that much. It's not god-awful, but it's just kind of standard Ritchie bad. The story of King Arthur should just normally be interesting, but it's squandered here by a pretty hit-or-miss performance from Hunnam, and a boring color scheme that makes the movie not fun to watch. It's also interesting to note that Ritchie had been working on this screenplay since 2010. To the finance side of things, the film costed $175 million, and I'll say, if there was ever a King Arthur of bad theater timing, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 came out the weekend before, Alien Covenant came out the weekend after. In the great words of Theodore Roosevelt, get fucked.
They're bombs.
After being forced against my better judgment to explain why 2 of these movies were in the $1 Billion Club, it is a relief to finally get to rip one of these movies apart. While I do wish it was Age of Extinction rather than The Last Night, I'll take any possibility I can get. The film had a budget of $217 million, and somehow people finally said, you know what, let's not go see Michael Bay waving keys in front of my face again. And such, the film only grossed about $130 million domestically. This being said, it was still #1 at the box office for its June 2017 release, beating out movies such as Cars 3, Wonder Woman, and 47 Meters Down. Okay, I see how it was #1.
They're bombs.
I don't even know what a planet is. This film was a really pretty movie that ended up bombing because they focused more on it looking pretty than it actually being interesting or standing out with its characters. Having a $180 million budget, the film made that money and then some overseas at $184 million, but domestically, the film only grossed about $40 million.
It's a French comic!
That's a $140 million loss. The film went up against Dunkirk and Girls Trip. One is a deep story of a tortured mind, and the other is Dunkirk Girls Trip! It really sucks this film couldn't have been more interesting because it is a really pretty movie. We've come a long way from John Travolta's disaster. That being said, $140 million lost is a true shame.
They're bombs.
Remember this movie? I don't. Yeah, 2018 was the first year I really paid attention to films, and Mortal Engines, at least I had a cool idea. After a cash rebate from New Zealand, the film ended up costing $110 million. It released December 14th, 2018. That's a very vaguely familiar weekend. What came out? Yikes! Not only that, but Clint Eastwood's The Mule was also released. That's just unfortunate. The film only made $15 million domestically and had a little more overseas success, but not a lot at $67 million. What can be said? Get this sunflower, bitch.
They're bombs.
This movie didn't even bomb that hard. Believe it or not, domestically, the film still made $100 million on a $103 million budget. That doesn't excuse the film's marketing costs. They really pushed toy lines out for this stinker, huh? Not only that, JetBlue, the airline, emailed customers telling them to go see the movie. Is there really gonna be anyone saying, Man, American Airlines told me to go see Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star. I should go see it. But dude, The Avengers, the fuck is a the? Overall, the movie itself is not very good, and the weird thing, this came the closest to not being a flop.
They're bombs.
Not a chance in hell.
They're bombs.
Hey, X-Men, remember when they were cool? Well, Dark Phoenix was like the accumulation of the mistakes of past X-Men movies. Even the good ones like First Class or Days of Future Past. But man, this movie sucks. The effects are hokey, no one seems to really care. The film costed $200 million to make and only made back about $65 million domestically. The worst part of this movie is that it was supposed to send off their near 2 decades of Fox-produced X-Men movies, dating back to 2000. Is this how you want to see these characters sent off? The film lost a fucking Secret Life of Pets 2. Also consider that Aladdin, Godzilla King of the Monsters, Endgame, and Detective Pikachu were all in wider release and pulling in numbers. A sad send off to a decent series of movies.
They're bombs.
Ang Lee really said, hey, I made Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, here's this. Gemini Man is a really confusing and pretty uninteresting mess. Nothing really adds up, and it doesn't really feel like Ang Lee. And considering he had a modest success with Life of Pi a few years before, it just sucks that this couldn't have been better. The film costed about $138 million and only grossed about $48 million, losing about $90 million domestically. You know what sucks even more? Outside of this movie, it opened next to The Addams Family and Jexy. People would rather watch Adam Devine fuck a phone, or whatever he does in that movie, than watch what is really a confusing mess from a great director. You're lucky you did Bumper in Berlin, you asshole.
Sure, Bumper has something up his sleeve. Poopy balls! Poopy balls!
Not to mention the movie was out at the same time as Joker, moving on.
They're bombs.
You know, for all its flaws, Dark Fate isn't really that bad. I mean, it's not good, but considering what it's following up, it's better than it needed to be. Having a budget of $185 million and only making about $62 million domestically, releasing in November of 2019, it bowed against Harriet, Motherless Brooklyn, criminally underrated, and Arctic Dogs. Fucking Arctic Dogs. I mean, again, it's not horrible, it's just not to Terminator 2 standards, or even the original. A pretty decent end to a series of movies that went through its ups and downs, but thankfully it never got as bad as Genesis.
This movie was so fucking stupid.
They're bombs.
It's funny, every time I searched on Bomb Report for a certain article, this movie popped up so many times. And the best thing I can say, that dog really looks like this movie sucks. You want to know how much I remember of this movie? I'll tell you. I remember the 3-year-old coughing his lungs out right next to me more than I remember anything that happened in this movie. Oh shit, this film came out in 2020. That kid was trying to warn us. It's not a bad movie, it's just by the numbers. It doesn't do anything different or take the risks it needs to be called a Call of the Wild adaptation. It plays it way too safe, and as someone who's read the book, you can't play it safe. Having a budget of $135 million, only making it back about $62 million domestically, I kind of blame most of 2020's biggest flops on the situation that happened. You know, come on, you know, the Little Caesars Massacre of 2020, stop ignoring it! The film opened next to Brahms the Boy 2. I remember when that shit just opened, I was working at the theater at the time, it was weird. I'm getting distracted! Not to mention the movie had some pretty big competition family-wise with Sonic the Hedgehog. Sucks to say, this was a huge bomb for more than a few good reasons.
They're bombs.
Did Robert Downey Jr. look at over a decade of being known as one of the most iconic heroes of all time and just say, fuck it, stupid, I want to talk to Tom Holland, dog. Doolittle's weird. It's quite literally one of the worst films to come out of 2020, and considering the year that was 2020, I think that's a standard. The film notably had a director change due to the arrogant original director, so they brought in a new guy. The film costed $175 million to make and only grossed about $77 million. A little under a $100 million loss. Are you really surprised? The film also notably opened next to Bad Boys for Life, another bomb with Like a Boss, and Underwater. The film was torn apart, and rightfully so.
They're bombs.
Did they look at Dark Phoenix and say, we can do that but worse? The New Mutants was a film that I definitely did watch, yet it's so forgettable that... Did I really watch it?
Did I? 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 Did I do?
The New Mutants had the interesting task of following up the piece of ass fire that was Dark Phoenix. It worked about as well. What can I say? Why were they trying to make an X-Men horror movie? Did they really see the Banana Splits movie and say, you know, they might be onto something? With a relatively small budget of $67 million, at least compared to other superhero movies, the movie made $23 million domestically. Keep in mind this movie was delayed a lot before it was cool, and it competed with Tenet. which wasn't a big hit in itself, but what was in 2020? Mutate on these nuts, bitch.
They're bombs.
You know it's bad when Pixar loses money. Again, 2020 was the year where one of the highest grossing movies was fucking Demon Slayer. Nothing against Demon Slayer, it's just nothing fucking released. Ain't nobody seeing shit in theaters after Lil Pump dropped in March 2020. The film costed $200 million. Okay, well, Pixar movies have been costly before. Oh, this movie came out in March of 2020. That was legit. Yeah. And that's why ain't nobody remembering Bloodshot, baby. Get out.
Hey, what's this?
They're bombs.
Tenet was the Christopher Nolan movie that did bad because it released in 2020. The movie in itself is very confusing and far from Nolan's best, but it's not bad either. It just takes a bit to get into. John David Washington and Robert Pattinson are great and oddly have some great chemistry. And the effects, as always, kicked ass. This being said, Tenet costed $205 million to make, and considering the highest grossing movie of 2020 made somewhere around $400 million, yeah, fucking right. The film made a domestic gross of $58 million, and I mostly blame that on, the fucking
They're bombs.
Yeah, making a superhero movie in 2020, well, we saw how it worked before. Wonder Woman 1984, a film in the modern day obsessed with the 80s look. Yeah, pretty standard. Wonder Woman 1984 is pretty bad, but it's not like one of the wars, it's just standard bad. Wonder Woman is still great, but the villain, especially with the CG on Cheetah, aren't all that great. And I didn't know it was possible to make me not like Pedro Pascal in something he's in. The film cost $200 million to make and only grossed about $46 million. It should also be considered that this is one of the first to simultaneously release on HBO Max, which was a big thing they did in 2021. It's also how I watched The Suicide Squad. That shit kicked ass! So really the numbers could have been considered in either light.
They're bombs.
Hey, you know what Lionsgate needs? Another fucking franchise. Chaos Walking was another Lionsgate attempt to make a franchise out of something that clearly wasn't franchise ready. This isn't quite as bad as Gods of Egypt, but it is still pretty forgettable, with practically no chemistry between Tom Holland or Daisy Ridley. Well, does it really have any charm to begin with?
Rey Skywalker.
No, you wait! The film cost about $100 million to make and only made back about $13 million. Yikes. Hey, Lionsgate, y'all had a good thing with Hunger Games. Leave it alone. No!
Dangerous. Yeah, why don't you just drop a car battery on her head? Car battery!
They're bombs.
Haunted Mansion, 2003 movie and an upcoming 2023 movie. Pirates of the Caribbean, multi-million franchise. Jungle Cruise, there's potential. Is that fucking Dwayne Johnson? Alright, movie's dead. Not that it's the worst jungle movie Dwayne Johnson's been a part of, but it certainly was a bit of a snore fest. In hindsight, a PG-13 Jungle Cruise movie should work. And Emily Blunt sorta makes it work, but The Rock and the villain played by Jesse Plemons just drag the film drastically down. And any real things that this movie does differently from the standard jungle adventure movie are usually boycotted in real Jumanji style. The film costed $200 million and only made back about $116 million domestically. Not bad, but considering the film's budget, yeah, no fucking chance.
They're bombs.
Hey, Neo and Trinity fucking died in Matrix Revolution, so obviously a fourth film was obvious. Yet another Wachowski film on this list, though this one only features one of them. The Matrix Resurrections blows. That's a mouthful. The Matrix Resurrections blows. It's not even bad like it's a bad Matrix film. No, it's just a bad film, period. The action feels downgraded, and so does Keanu Reeves. I mean, thank God this guy was John Wick, because I think people had a moment where they didn't trust him as an action hero. Also, he was a highlight of Always Be My Maybe. The film costed about $190 million to make, and still made a decent chunk of that, making $159.2 million, but all things considered, it flopped for a reason. Neil Patrick Harris.
They're bombs.
Hey, NBA fans, who's better than Michael Jordan?
Steph Curry.
Fuck you, LeBron's James. I gotta say, for the flaws this movie does have, it's still delightfully bad. It's enjoyable enough to the point where I wouldn't call it top tier, but it's a fine popcorn flick. It's so delightfully dumb that I kinda just have fun with it. However, the film took $150 million to make and couldn't make it back, and only making back 163.7. A fucking Wikipedia.
They're bombs.
I'm not talking about this fucking movie again.
They're bombs.
Okay, this is a movie I know flopped, but it's purely because Disney didn't advertise it. Fucking pricks. I mean, sure, it's not a great film, but it's fine. It's fine. Strange World had an estimated budget of $135 to $180 million and only made back about $73.6 million. You know the fucked up part? Disney won't take the blame on that. They see that loss and think, oh, people don't like animation anymore. Let's remake all our old films. People loved our old films. The Lion King was in the $1 billion club. Well, we do like animation, but you know what helps us like animation? Trailers, advertising, fucking marketing. It is all right there in front of your fingertips. Why don't you grow a pair of mouse testicles and make more goddamn animated movies? Okay. Holy shit, that was a lot. But you know what? Money shouldn't be the biggest factor into a film's popularity. Hell, some of these movies were amongst some of the most popular films of all time. I think it's fair to say we've come a long way, and we're only going to get better as the industry gets bigger and more advanced. Well, that's all for today. If there's anything I love more, it's recording for an hour and a half on these damn things. Thanks everyone until... Fuck. No, God, no. God, is that fucking George Spooney? Yeah, are they gone? Is everybody gone? Okay. Gabe, my lovable, kind of funny, kind of stupid employee. I gotta be honest with you, buddy. What the fuck is this? Do you think this is funny? Do you think I'm playing with you right now? I'm not. I'm not playing with you. Because your big ass nose and your big ass forehead ain't gonna be talking about this while you're working for me. So here's what's gonna happen, buddy. I am going to be using you throughout the entire video. That's right, you're gonna be the